So you understand the difference between a church's mission and its methods, but what are you supposed to do with that information? How and where does it show up, and when should you be paying attention? Well, big or small, mission and method show themselves in every church meeting that you have, so you should probably know what to look for. And if you'd like to, then great, stick around, because the Church Helper podcast starts right now. Well, hey there and welcome to another edition of the Church Helper podcast. Our mission at Church Helper is to help churches make every decision on purpose. My name's Mike and I'm excited to help you in your church today, so let's get into it. And today, we're talking about how mission and method show themselves in every church meeting that you have, from your staff and your elders team meetings to even your youth and family ministry volunteers. But before we start, if you're not sure what I'm talking about when I mention mission and method, just hit the pause button right now and go back and check out episode 1. It's the foundation that'll help you understand what we're talking about in today's conversation. All right, so we know that your mission is your purpose and your method is how you're accomplishing it. But something that you do need to identify in every meeting is how each one manifests itself during a conversation. So when I meet with churches to discuss mission and method, I usually start by listing a series of ministries or traditions that happen at that church, and then I'll ask the group if they, think that that's a mission or a method. So for example, I'll ask, is your Sunday morning service a mission or a method? How about your music ministry? How about your preaching or your Sunday school? What about your fundraisers or even your midweek groups? Now, these are always tricky conversations because almost immediately people start to get a little uncomfortable. And usually it's not because they don't know the answer, it's because the correct answer can sometimes bring them to a place that they just don't want to go. Let's take Sunday school as our test case. If I were to ask, is Sunday school the mission or a method, your instinct should be to say method, because the mission is to teach kids about Jesus and Sunday school is the way or the how that happens. But you might feel like if you say it's only a method, it could lead you down the path of saying we don't need to have a Sunday school. And if you arrived there, then I think that you would actually be correct. Now, you might want a Sunday school and you might have a really great one, and that is awesome. But is Sunday school mission critical to the church? I mean, I don't think it is, and I'm going to explain why, but first, let me preface it by saying that I've spent the last 15 years in youth and family ministry and that I love Sunday school. Here's something simple you can do right away. Either pause right now or after you're done with today's episode, find your church's mission statement. Now, sometimes a church will use an excerpt of scripture as its mission statement, like the Great Commission, and sometimes a church will create its own. So mission statements can sound something like this: knowing Jesus and making Jesus known. Love God, love people, make disciples. People helping people follow Jesus. So now that you've got your mission statement, ask this question: do we need a Sunday school to accomplish our mission? Now, pretty quickly, you'll realize that the answer is no. And Sunday school might be a great way to accomplish that mission, but it's only one way. It's just a method. And if you didn't have a Sunday school, but your Sunday service taught children to be disciples of Jesus, or you had a dedicated midweek program, or you had a learning plan for families to use at home, you'd still be accomplishing your mission. And that's the tricky part, because if you were to ask this question of most of your church's ministries, the outcome would probably be the same. Most of those ministries would be considered methods. And this is how mission and method make their way into every church meeting that you have, and why it's so important to identify the difference right away. In most meetings, you're almost always talking about a method, but you're not always talking about your mission. And this happens often in the church because sometimes we just take the mission for granted. And often we'll have long conversations discussing the ins and outs of a method without first reminding ourselves what the mission is. So the next time you're in a meeting, whether it be with your elders or your staff or your volunteers, here's my challenge to you. Start the meeting with a reminder of your mission. Pull out your mission statement and read it. And then filter every conversation through the question, why is what we're talking about mission critical? Now, if this is a new practice, some people might think it's a little odd, or even like you're just trying to get your way or your method, but you're not. So explain to people what you're doing. You could even use this podcast as a reference, because starting every meeting with your mission will help you every single time. In fact, by not asking this question regularly, you risk going off mission altogether and having your ministries turn into things that you like instead of things that have a purpose. And when you only talk about your methods, you end up with what we call mission drift. And mission drift is a church killer, because when you drift away from your mission, you're drifting away from God's plan for you and your church. So how can you avoid mission drift? Well, you can start by identifying the mission and method in every conversation you have. And then you can tune in and check out a podcast in the future on mission drift. And if you're a church staff member or volunteer and you're not sure how to make your conversations more mission focused, please feel free to reach out to us for a chat. We're always happy to help churches make every decision on purpose. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Please subscribe so you don't miss the next one, or head to our website, churchhelper.ca, to sign up for our email list. And if there's somebody in your life that you think should hear this podcast, but they're not really a podcaster, I've got you covered. Head over to the website, churchhelper.ca/podcast, for a printable transcript of today's episode. Thanks for joining in the Church Helper podcast. I'll talk to you next time.